Now he's got a reality show, and he tells people they're fired with a big grin on it. I'm sure he's going to be entertaining, but he can't get away with, like, doing the 15-second thing and then you know, walking away, not taking questions, which is what he likes to do. No, it's 90 minutes, mano a mano.
So Hillary Clinton's running mate there, Tim Kaine, with a somewhat of a warning for Donald Trump. You could take it that way, telling him there's no hiding here tonight on Long Island. 90 minutes, mano a mano. You heard it right there. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is here now live, senior advisor of the Trump team. We normally see her in the South, but today she's on Long Island. How you doing, Sarah?
Doing great.
Good day to you. Number of questions for you. Let's start moving through them rapidly.
Right.
No mock debate prep. Why not?
Well, I think Donald Trump does what works best for him, and that is discussing the issues, studying the issues, and frankly, being himself. He's not a poll-tested, scripted robot like Hillary Clinton. And I think that that's a great contrast to have, and one we're certainly excited to see tonight.
What do you think about people suggesting that he can't fill 2 minutes on an answer?
Well, I think we've seen him do far more than 2 minutes on rally stage after rally stage and numerous interviews all over the country. So I think it's pretty laughable to think he can't fill 2 minutes when he's been filling hours and hours of TV screens all across America.
But, you know, you look back at some of the previous debates, just looking at him in a debate environment, because that's what we're trying to analyze at this moment in time. And when he was up there, he did have sort of two modes. He was either in forward mode, attacking, or he kind of hung back at many of the debates while the discussion was going on. So that's the big question. You know, is he sort of ready to get into depth on their question? When he's at a rally, it's all what he wants to say, you know, which is great and easier.
I think he's certainly ready. I think, though, what we saw during that time is he did what worked for him and what he needed to do in order to win. Let's not forget, he beat out 16 extremely strong, credible candidates, and in large part because of his performance on that debate stage.
Maybe saying less worked.
Yeah, so if you're doing something and it works, don't change it.
Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta, on NBC yesterday, Meet the Press, framed part of this debate this way. Watch it.
Donald Trump will have to think about what he said in the past, his disparagement of that reporter that you saw in the screen with disabilities. He's going to have to think about the names he's called to Gold Star families, to Mexicans, to Muslims, and, you know, he may try to, he's a good television performer, so he may try to adjust for that.
We have heard references to that for several days now. Can you tell us whether or not Donald Trump has gotten ready for that answer?
I think Donald Trump is very well prepared for this debate. Look, all the enthusiasm is behind him. He's surging in the polls, and he's exactly what America is looking for. He is authentic, and he's the change agent in a race that is completely focused on change. 70% of Americans want something different in the next president. Hillary Clinton represents everything that is the status quo. And I think on this stage tonight, one-on-one, you're going to see that more clearly than we ever have.
Wow. I guess that's why we watch, right?
Absolutely.
100 million?
We will see. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Sarah, nice
Great
to see you.
Great to see you.
So who should be responsible for fact-checking tonight? That's one of the big questions. Debate officials leaving it up to the candidates to call each other out. Why they say Lester Holt should be off the hook in that regard.
Also saying goodbye to the king, the legacy of the golfing great Arnold Palmer.
People were hurt here or how badly. We're waiting for some more details to come. Keep you posted as we get it.
Certainly possible, too. A topic like that comes up tonight. The news of the day. Hillary Clinton gearing up for a long-awaited matchup with Donald Trump. Yesterday, her campaign had arguably a bit of a problem answering some of her questions about the email and the server. Have a listen.
This IT worker certainly sounded like he thought he was covering something up, no?
FBI Director Comey came out and said to the world that there was no case here, that they did not have evidence of wrongdoing on Hillary's part.
So what's the Hillary cover-up operation that the IT worker was referring to?
Well, but this is the perfect example of what's going on here. The Republicans in the House side are selectively leaking documents for the purpose of making Hillary look bad.
All right, now Guy Cecil, co-chair, chief strategist, Priorities USA Action. That's a super PAC for Hillary Clinton, former political director of Clinton's campaign in 2008, president of Every Citizen Counts. You do a lot, Guy. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. We're less than 12 hours before it goes down tonight. How do you think she handles the whole question about the email and the server when she perhaps tries to rehabilitate the image that she has cast on many who believe that they can't trust her? What's the best way to allay those concerns, do you think?
I think you can look at the answers that she's given over the course of the past couple of months. Hillary has taken responsibility for the server. She says she would have chosen to have a state email account, and she's laid out the facts as she's seen them. And I think actually Robbie made the right point, which is that the FBI director, after reviewing everything that was available to him and to his agents, made the conclusion that there was not a case against Secretary Clinton. And I think you'll hear her talk about that tonight if she's asked.
But specifically in that interview with Jake Tapper on CNN on Sunday, it was thought that the Hillary cover-up operation, that was apparently one of the emails was labeled. Also, there was a problem handling a question about sanctuary cities and whether she supports them or not.
Well, to be clear,
it would seem, based on that interview, that there needs to be more clarification, Guy.
Well, actually, if you read the report that was given out on Friday night, the answer was actually there. Jake didn't need to ask Robbie about it. The technician himself told the FBI that he was joking about it, as many of us do when we're talking to other folks. And I think that's the answer that the FBI accepted, and it's why they didn't bring a case against Secretary Clinton. So, in fact, the facts speak for themselves in this particular case, and I think Hillary will do a good job tonight laying those facts out for the American people.
I think it'll be interesting whether Lester Holt brings it up or maybe even Donald Trump brings it up. So we will see how that's managed later tonight. What is your expectation for her? Chris Cillizza writes the fix for the Washington Post. He talks about her possibly as sometimes being too rehearsed, loves the study, which I have no problem with that. But when you relay the facts of your study and you go too deep in the weeds, you can lose some folks. If you were giving her advice on that, Guy, what would you say?
Well, there's no question that Hillary understands policy and has tried as best as possible in this, shall we say, unique political environment to be focused on her plans for the country. But I think the most important thing for her to do tonight is to make those policies real for the American people by talking about the people that she's met along the way, the people she served when she was in the United States Senate for the state of New York, to try to make them as personable and personal as she possibly can. And I think you'll see her do a lot of that tonight.
There have been many stories written over the past week. Guy, I'm sure you've read them. Perhaps you were a source or two on some of them. I don't know, but maybe, maybe not. That she is getting ready for 2 different Donald Trumps, or 3 or 4 different Donald Trumps. How do you manage that?
Look, I think the biggest challenge is actually dealing with one particular Donald Trump, and that's a Donald Trump that has consistently lied to the American people. Every fact check that's been done suggests that in one case, Donald Trump lies every 3 minutes and 15 seconds that he speaks. In another case, 78% of the assertions that he has made have been deemed false or a lie or a pants on fire. And so I think her big challenge is deciding when to correct the record.
Right.
There was a study done by Politico. There was another study done by the LA Times, on the New York Times, several of them. And I think she's going to have to figure out when to correct the record and when to focus on her own agenda for the country. That's the balance that she's going to have to strike, regardless of what the moderator chooses to do.
You looking forward to this, Guy?
I'm looking forward to it being over so we can stop talking about what's going to happen.
Well, then we talk about debate number 2. Come on.
There's the drum roll, and the first presidential debate is now just hours away. Some are calling for the moderators throughout the course of these debates to check the accuracy of what the candidates are saying on stage. Is that their job? Is that their responsibility? Debate moderators typically choose not to play the role of fact checker, but they should. If a candidate says something that is not true, that is hard for any reporter or journalist. Watch this.
I think personally, if you start getting into fact checking, I'm not sure what is a big fact, what's a little fact. And if you and I have different about the unemployment rate, agree with my source, I don't think it's a good idea to get the moderator into essentially serving as the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Let's bring in Howard Kurtz, Fox News media analyst and host of Media Buzz. What do you think, Howard?
There's an NBA level of working the refs going on right now with the Hillary Clinton campaign arguing that Lester Holt and the other moderators must act as a check because Donald Trump spews all these lies constantly. And you know who else is pushing this? It's the press. Yesterday, Martha, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Politico, all had pieces about a week of Trump lies and half-truths and exaggerations. Yeah. If nobody in America is tuning in to see Lester Holt debate Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton.
What?
You know, the Trump team could turn that around and say, let's fact-check her. I mean, they're the ones who've been driving the story for the last 2 days.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important for the moderator to be fair, to set up questions that box the candidates in on a factual basis, but to let them go at it. So let's say that Donald Trump says, you know, I oppose the war in Iraq before it started, as he has said many times. I've pressed him on this. There's no public record. So Lester Holt could follow up and say, can you point to any public record, sir, where that was the case, as opposed to saying, well, that's a lie, I've looked into it. You don't want to insert yourself into the story. Or he could say, Mrs. Clinton, you know, do you disagree with what Donald Trump just said, and what about your own vote for the war in 2002? So there are subtle ways to do it without becoming a participant.
Newt Gingrich said this: how weak is Clinton that her campaign wants moderators to fact-check Trump? Isn't that her job? Are they that afraid of Trump? That's kind of the case you're making right now.
Yeah, and at the same time, if Lester Holt's going to do that, doesn't he have an equal responsibility to go after Hillary Clinton if she prevaricates or exaggerates or shades the truth on her email or any other controversy involving her? And then more and more, it's like a Sunday show interview, which is fine to do on a Sunday show interview or even in a primary debate like the two of you have hosted. Right. But this is Trump versus Clinton for all the marbles, and Lester Holt needs to frame the questions very aggressively, follow up when necessary. You can do that, but don't become part of the story.
What about this issue of the earpiece and whether or not Lester Holt should have an earpiece in? There was this whole discussion about Matt Lauer and whether or not he was being nudged and pushed to continue to go after Hillary Clinton. What do you think about that?
I actually think it's a good idea. Certainly, we can't have it.
To not have it?
No, I think it's a good idea for the moderator to have an earpiece because for one thing, you need to keep track of time, make sure it's roughly evenly distributed.
Which is mostly, you know, some people think, oh, that you're just sitting there being fed questions, which of course we all know is not at all how it happens. That would be impossible to navigate. But, you know, just to sort of know that you're almost up against a commercial break, I think it would feel strange to be out there without any connection to your control room because it's a live event.
She and I have a different mind of this because I think Lester Holt can just watch the clock and look at the distribution. Now, if there's a case where one candidate is getting more time than the other, then perhaps the producers, in this case the debate commission, should let him know and notify him that it's been unbalanced.
I will make a prediction, no matter how good a job Lester Holt does, if he's perfectly even, presses both candidates, tries to pin them down on the facts, he will have the stuffing kicked out of him by partisans on both sides because this is the hyper-polarized age we now live in. Every moderator in the debate can expect that.
I think that is possible. I'll take the other side of that tomorrow morning and say that people believe it was even and fair and Holt stay out of the way.
As journalists, you and I might agree on that, but there are an awful lot of people there who have access to the Twitter and people who are partisans of both candidates who will be looking to say, why didn't he ask that question? Why didn't he follow up here? There's no perfect.
But I don't see Lester Holt doing a Candy Crowley.
No.
You know, sort of stepping in to try to rescue is the way it was seen in that moment, that she tried to sort of say, oh, no, that's not what the president said.
Moderators learned their lesson from that incident.
I think so, too.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Howie, thanks.
Howie,
Talk to you tomorrow, okay?
Big night for you.
Yeah, the Clinton camp also saying that fact-checking